What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and part 2 of the custom racing cabinet. I'm really excited about the progress I've made so far, what I'm about to show you in this video. Really excited to get this thing done. And if this is your first time checking out one of my videos, go on over to my channel. I have a ton of playlists of different projects and reviews that I think you might enjoy. And if you like what you see, maybe consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Now on with the video. Now, something I got done between videos was fabricate a box that was going to house the monitor and the sound bar. And now the task is sort of figuring out where I want the monitor mounted in relationship to the driver. I think I'm going to need this a little bit lower than it currently is. I'm checking my eye line. This is the scientific way you do that. You sort of point, and that's where you want the monitor. And so I'm taking some reference marks about where the monitor would sit if it was in the housing the way it is now, and then trying to determine how much lower I can actually get away with without obstructing the speakers or getting in the way of some of the wires coming out of that steering wheel. So with the monitor mount location established, now it's time to figure out what I want to do with these side panels. And you can be as creative as you want to or strictly utilitarian. So if you take a look at my cardboard box notepad, you'll see the overall design that I'm going for. I wanted a little bit of a curve, a simple design, but nothing just square. I don't want this thing to like a refrigerator. So now there ain't nothing to it but to do it. So with the price of 3/4 inch MDF being roughly $4,000 to $5,000 a sheet, I thought it would make a little more sense to start with this thinner material and use it as kind of a template. So this will be a rough design that we can alter and change, and it's only going to cost me 20 bucks. Now, to achieve the curved shape that I'm after, I'm going to establish a start and an end point and then just sort of freehand this. Once I get the shape finalized on the template, it'll be really easy to transfer it to the two side pieces. Head back over to the arcade with my template, and this is the time to sort of stand back and look at it, put this thing in place, squint one eye, stand on one leg, and try to envision all the problems you may have by going with this design. Also, don't be afraid to tweak it because this is just a template, so mock it up as much as you possibly can with everything you have fabricated, and then you can make adjustments from there. I'm also taking notes on the actual template itself, things like +1 inch here or -3 inches there, things that I can take and transfer easily to the final piece. Well, there's no turning back now. After the rectangles are cut, it's time to cut the curved portion, and I'm going to use the jigsaw, but there's always a little bit of blade deflection. The cut is never going to be perfection. That's where the sanding tools come in. MDF is great. You can easily sand it, and it keeps a nice edge, a nice radius. So don't just be satisfied with that rough saw cut. Take your time with the sanding block, and you're going to love the results, especially when this thing is as high as it is, roughly 60 inches. So if this was jaggy, I would be able to see it. And here you can see the difference between the template and the size of the piece that was actually cut. I had to add about 4 inches in the rear so that I could add a support on the bottom to the two sides to kind of tie those together. It is also a good idea to do a dry fit of all the pieces before you put them together for the final time, just to make sure that everything is snug, but that you're not fighting it during that assembly. Also, to try to keep these two sides looking identical, I clamped them together and did some sanding just to make sure that the curves were the same, especially where the monitor is going to slide into place, because I want this to be exact on both sides. Now I've cut a couple spacers that are going to be attached to the middle of the monitor box. This is going to allow the pieces, give the side pieces, something to kind of rest on as I assemble it, and it will keep the spacing exact top and bottom. You don't want your two sides, as it's all going together, to sort of be off kilter. It's going to be a problem. You'll fight it, and you won't be happy at the end of the day. And here I'm marking the center line of the 3/4 inch side pieces where they will be in reference to the inside of the monitor. And now comes the easy part of putting it all together. So we're just going to take the two side panels, lay them down on the workbench, and we're just going to stand like on the ground. We're gonna stand them up on the ground. We'll put a piece of plywood down. I'll clamp a spacer to the 2x4, and that's going to keep the spacing on the back correct and good enough for me to slide the monitor box in place. So with that glued and nailed in place, it was time to create a shelf on the backside inside the cabinet. This is where we're going to put the PlayStation 4. We're going to have all the electrical components. It's going to be a nice big area to store everything we need to make this cabinet function. And now it's time for the Marquee Assembly. It went together exactly like the one I did for the 6-player X-Men cabinet, except it's not as small as that one because we don't have the design constraints of an arcade one-up. We can do whatever we want here. So I went about 6 inches wide, and we've got the backing piece that the LEDs will be mounted to, of course 2 pieces of plexi that will eventually have a piece of film inside, and then we're just going to take the top and screw it in place so that if we ever need to make a change to the marquee, we can easily do so. So I'm putting the marquee box in place, and I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be flush with the outside of the monitor or recessed back about like that. I think I may go with that, but we'll see. There's no reason to put it in place just yet because I still need to do the routing for the T-molding. And here's the shape that I've come up with for the subwoofer enclosure that's going to be mounted behind the seat. This was done the same way that the side panels for the arcade were done, starting with a template and going from there. I added this little lip on the front because I want this box to sort of hook to the back of the racing seat frame, not necessarily attach to it, but just keep it in place. So this is where all of our planning really pays off. We're going to go ahead and lean that seat forward, set the subwoofer enclosure in place, and then set the subwoofer inside of it. Now these feet aren't permanent. I have some rubber feet coming from Amazon. That'll happen in a later video. But as you can see, everything fits. And with that, we are about 90% done with all the fabrication on this project. We are going to completely cover the rear of the cabinet as well as that subwoofer enclosure. I'm going to try to match the radius on top, the curved piece, and then we'll have a flat piece that will serve as kind of an access door. We still have to install the LEDs in the back of the marquee and run the wires for that. Also, I think I'm going to have to drill a hole here so that we can route the cables from the steering wheel up through the bottom of the cabinet. And these side panels may not be complete. I've had a suggestion to cut a relief on the side to ease the transition in and out of the cabinet. Something like that, and it would also give it kind of a racy look. Okay, so let me know what you think about the progress so far down in the comments section below. Any kind of thoughts or ideas you have, go ahead and throw them out there. It'd be kind of interesting to see what other people think of what I've been doing so far. The next time you see this, it will be complete with artwork, and the artwork is going to kind of be a surprise. But for now, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of what this thing looks like. Thank you so much for stopping by. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you next time.